Okay, doctorarjaybe, and today I was going to talk about prostate cancer. Very common cancer in men, the most common cancer for men. Um, uh, Fortunately for us men, the survival rate is also very good. Um, and some of the reasons I think is that prostate cancer is not always an aggressive cancer. There are people who had prostate cancer that went on to stage 3 and 4 and did fairly poorly. But on the other hand, there are many of the people who have been diagnosed with prostate cancer who only had stage 1 or stage 2 cancers and did fairly well. Um, uh, there is a statistic that is known in urology that by the age of 80, approximately 75 to 80% of men are going to have prostate cancer in their prostate. This is based on autopsy studies, not checking every man. When they have done autopsies on men for other causes of death, say car accidents or heart attacks or whatever, they have found that when they look at the prostate, that they can find prostate cancer in 80% of those men. Now, you have to think about this for a minute. It means basically that people die of something else with prostate cancer in their prostate at age 80. Now, the natural lifespan for a man is about 80 years of age. So what this means is that the prostate cancer was not the cause of death, and that this man lived a full life of 80 years before he died of something else. Given that there's so much prostate found so much prostate cancer found in prostates, it kind of tells you that the prostate cancer is not a super aggressive cancer. They have even found prostate cancer in 21-year-old men who again died of something else. And they can find that I think it's about 15% of the time. So again, prostate cancer is extremely common. It occurs all through our lives, but doesn't always cause problems. I'm 71 years of age. So according to those statistics, I probably have a chance of about 3/4 or so that I have prostate cancer in my prostate right now. My PSA is normal. So that means this is like an inactive disease if I have it. Now, PSA is probably the best way of trying to find prostate cancer and to screen for it. PSA stands for prostate specific antigen, and it's a chemical that's released by prostate cancers. There is a little bit that's produced by the prostate itself. So there's a range of normal, somewhere between 0 and 4 on the PSA scale is considered normal amount. As men get older, the normal actually gets bigger. So in other words, if somebody is in their 70s or 80s, going up to 5 or up to 6 may be considered fairly normal. But if a man who is, let's say, 40 years of age has a PSA of 6, there is a concern that they might have an active prostate cancer. It used to be that if you had a PSA of 6, they would immediately do treatment of your prostate. These days, because of the statistics about how common prostate cancer is, if a man has a PSA of 6, the first thing that they'll do is repeat the PSA. Do it again in 3 months or 6 months and see if it maybe goes down. There's other causes of a PSA that's elevated. besides prostate cancer. Inflammation of the prostate is one. So it's possible that the PSA may be falsely elevated. The first thing to do is check it again in 3 to 6 months. If it's still elevated, start making your decisions. Even if the prostate is found to have prostate cancer, once again, decisions are made. So there are basically, numbers that they use to determine what decision to make. How many? They will biopsy the prostate, let's just say a dozen times, and out of that dozen, they get a number. Let's say there's only 2 or 3 prostate cancers found. They're not as excited if they find that they have 9 or 10 prostate cancers, or in other words, 10 out of 12 biopsies are positive for cancer, or 2 or 3 of the 12 out of 12 biopsies are positive. Even then, and then there's also a grading of the cancer. What this means is that how aggressive does it appear to be on microscopic exam. So if the numbers are all put together and you get a score of 6 or below, combining these numbers, typically there's a wait and see approach done. Wait another 6 to 12 months, do another biopsy and see where it goes. If it gets worse, then treat the prostate. If it gets better, then maybe you don't do anything. Or if it stays the same, maybe you don't do anything. On the other hand, if the cancer score is like 8 to 8 and above, they would probably want to treat it aggressively right now. Number 7 is the ticklish one, because it's less than 8 and more than 6, and so number 7 is a flip of the coin, 50-50. What do you do? And unfortunately, I've had a couple of patients who've had number 7, and what do you do? Who knows? I think one thing to take into consideration as a doctor is how old the person is. You got somebody who's 90 years of age and has a relatively low score. Do you do anything at all? Not a chance. Somebody who's 90 years of age, their natural lifespan is not that great. The odds that they're going to make it all the way to 100, is relatively small. So there's really no reason to get too aggressive on that person. But if somebody is, let's say, 35 years of age, and you find some of these things, and you know that they're going to live another 50 years, maybe at that case, maybe you're more aggressive. So these are kind of the ways that the doctors think about prostate cancer. And you might be getting some information if you go through this yourself. I just wanted to explain what the prostate cancer decision tree is all about.